Hello everyone, welcome to Unfiltered, and in today's video we're going to discuss some DC news, and I'm going to discuss this from a fan perspective. Um, so let's go ahead and get started because it's recently was announced that James Gunn and Peter Safran will be taking over DC effective November 1st. Now, obviously changes will take time, but I thought that we would discuss this from maybe how this is good news and what the potential bad news is coming out of this announcement, and then what needs to be done probably moving forward to really get us where we need to go, at least in my opinion. Share your thoughts if you disagree with me. So as far as the good, I think this is a potential win for fans who currently like the current characters in their form that they've been presented on within the movies. And also the actors a majority of the actors who play these DC characters. Now, we're not sure if, let's say, we'll see how Aquaman 2 does, if it will get greenlit for a third movie, but I think it's kind of interesting that, you have James Gunn coming into here, and James Gunn has already played with some of Zack Snyder's toys, meaning the Suicide Squad, and did receive some critical acclaim for the Suicide Squad, even though it wasn't a box office kind of success. Now, I don't think that James Gunn will change everything because, like I said, he has explored and played with some of the characters and has had a good relationship with some of the actors, such as Margot Robbie. So I think it'll be interesting, to see what he's going to do. Now he has been successful in also getting some of the TV show out of his Suicide Squad, and no other kind of director or any other movie character has really been able to directly get a movie related to their or TV show related to their movie. So I think there is some success there, and again, I guess the Peacemaker TV show has received some praise for some fans, but it is kind of a smaller kind of group. But I will also say this one. I should say I'm trying to think of a way to say this without being nice. The budget and the way at least the trailers looked didn't make me want to watch it, and maybe I'll give it a check just to probably get a feel of what James Gunn is kind of going for here. I'm kind of mixed about this change. I've been let down so much by DC, and I really love the characters and what they mean to me, and we'll get through a little bit of that when we talk about what needs to kind of change moving forward, because James Gunn and Peter are in a unique kind of circumstance where you have a very devoted fandom from the Snyderverse, who's going to be a little hard to kind of change things, and even I could recognize that. I went into watching Batman vs Superman in the movies, and I do realize when I rewatch it, there are certain areas that I do skip through. But to tell you the truth, I also do that with Marvel movies. So I I don't know. So let's move on with our list. So does this mean that we have a potential for a shared universe? I'm hoping so, because I think that's one of the biggest problems with DC is that you'll have very strong hits and then very strong misses. So hopefully there could be kind of a unified kind of path here for things to get more centralized and get some momentum building. I think that's one of the things that hurts DC is like you're never sure what you're going to get. And unfortunately, lots of times it ends up disappointing most audiences. I mean, Black Adam seems to have a pretty good audience score right now. I have not seen it, and critics don't seem to like it. And I think because the back and forth, I've been reluctant to actually watch it just yet. I'm definitely gonna watch it when it comes out to to rent or on streaming. Now there are some also other good things, which is James Gunn has been under the hood of Marvel and knows some things that work within Marvel. Now that doesn't mean that he should copy everything, but this could be good for DC because he's seen where Kevin Feige in the vision of what works, and I'm hoping that he takes some elements that have worked over there, such as the shared universe, and telling a bigger story and kind of that build up that they have. Now, this also could potentially mean that maybe Superman will get a movie with Henry Cavill in there. Um, Now, I do know that some individuals indicate that we have to wait to the success of kind of Black Adam. Now, maybe, maybe not, because there are other factors that we'll talk about, such as budgeting, that may actually allow for Superman to get a sequel. So it all depends on what kind of budget they can do this on. Now, hopefully, having two individuals will clear any missteps that potentially could happen before a film gets to the big screen. So we've seen lots of creatives, and WB has really allowed lots of the directors to take reign. I think that we saw that with Patty Jenkins in Wonder Woman 2. You saw in the first movie Wonder Woman was so successful, but she was, kind of edited by the movie, and one of her decisions that she was going to add the kind of big kind of ending towards the end, which received mixed reviews, but to tell you the truth, without that, it kind of made the film feel a little disconnected. And I think we saw, like, when she was in control of Wonder Woman 2 completely and took complete credit for that, what happened. So maybe, this is going to be a little different than Marvel, where you have just one individual, which is Kevin Feige. Hopefully having two individuals kind of spot check each other of like, we shouldn't do that, or, that works, will hopefully give us a good product. Now, James Gunn does like to color outside the box, and sometimes can be a little sloppy in doing so, so maybe having, like I said, someone else will be good for him, because we saw, like, Guardians of the Galaxy has been received pretty well, comparatively to Suicide Squad, and I think that having that other support or someone to say, maybe you just need to do this, definitely could maybe get James Gunn to hopefully be where he needs to be in order to get maybe DC in the right path. Now, I'm not saying that DC shouldn't take risks, because I think that's something that, Marvel hasn't done as much. And I think there's, the benefit of Batman, which is edgy, and I don't think that Marvel really has that. So I think there's certain things that James Gunn hopefully can play with, that his unique style can take advantage of. But again, I think taste is a factor here, and we'll get into that a little bit. Now, as far as character development, there was some parts that I did like that James Gunn did. Now, for example, like Polka Dot Man and the Suicide Squad, I actually really came out really enjoying that character and wanting more of them. It's unfortunate they killed them off in the movie, but hopefully, with James Gunn coming back in here, we'll get something like that in there. And you know what? There are some humor that I do like of James Gunn. Like, for example, Polka Dot Man was envisioning his mom, and he looked, and his mom was dancing, and they were all behind him, and all the characters, as his mom. I thought that was kind of funny. And then there's other areas where it's a little more crude and grotesque in the jokes, which maybe I could do without, and I think would, if you take those out, could probably appeal to a little more broader audience, which would be good for DC and everybody. Now, Harley in the movie was still a mess, but I think Harley in the cinematic version has been a little hard to get kind of quite right. So hopefully, James Gunn maybe rethinking kind of development of the character, because probably going to revisit Harley, can get that maybe a little more under control. It seems like Harley works best as an ensemble than probably being the main kind of protagonist. Now, let's get into the bad, because with David Zaslav still in charge and lots of the cost cutting going on, this could have an effect on kind of budgeting. And yes, things need to be kind of within a budget, and DC has not had strong box office like Marvel, so obviously you can't probably give the same budget because you're not guaranteed the same kind of profit. So there's that, which is understandable, but David Zaslav has made some questionable decisions in regards to budget, and it's almost like with the Disney parks, and they're kind of like protesting in regards to what they're doing, like recycling rides and kind of giving just new face facades, and basically the same ride but just a little different. So I'm not sure what kind of budgeting decisions this will be under David Zaslav, and what challenges that will impose on James Gunn and Peter as they try to reshape DC and their vision. Of course, probably having to keep the template that's already been kept in place. Now, with the current leadership under David Zaslav, is this going to make it actually harder for James Gunn to get the talent that he needs? Now, you probably could keep the same talent that you have, but you're probably going to have to lock in some deals, and those deals are probably going to have to be on budget. Now, I also get concerned in regards to the budget of like DC just pumping out like quick and cheap products, and I don't think that's the thing that they want to do here, because you're just tarnishing the brand more. I think they really have to think about what movies they have coming out, and does this actually contribute towards the narrative that they want to build. Now, they already have some movies that are already set up for Slate to build, so they'll probably have to see how those fit into their storyline, but there may be an easy way to do a fresh reboot or restart to continue the story. I think that if, budgets are going to be cut, I think it's good to focus on the story and the development of the characters to build up to maybe something bigger. So, you've seen Marvel kind of do it with like each of the characters having their solo movies and building up to something bigger. I think they can kind of borrow from that same thought process. Now, James Gunn has had issue with taste. Now, Suicide Squad did have some creative choices that didn't translate well to a wide audience. It seems like Deadpool is the only one that really can pull this off with getting away with it. Now, I didn't enjoy Deadpool the sequel as much. Now, there were some funny moments in there, but I think Deadpool did have, even in the sequel, some better humor that landed than Suicide Squad. But I know a lot of people love Deadpool, but even that compared to the other Marvel movies is not like, as huge as the $1 billion box office. So, I don't know. I know a lot of people are excited for the Deadpool kind of sequel with Wolverine, and I really like Hugh Jackman in the role, so I will probably go see that as well. But as far as like, for Suicide Squad and DC, I think there has to be, yes, a little bit edginess of it, but we have to be a little less on the crude humor. I think James Gunn could use some help with the humor. I think in Guardians, like when Kevin Feige was interacting and giving him some oversight, you saw like a really good product coming out there. Now, some people may disagree and say, "Hey, Matthew, Guardians of the Galaxy sucks," but I liked it. I like the aesthetic and everything there. I think the other problem that you have here is that James Gunn's reputation. We've had scandals, and does DC really need someone else with a difficult past? I mean, they already had issues with Ezra Miller. They had issues with, oh my gosh, I can't believe, Joss Whedon. And I always forget to pronounce his last name right. You had the Ray Fisher situation with Walter Hamada, and of course, other individuals here. So there's lots of difficulty with DC and its talent, and I'm not sure. Hopefully, James Gunn doesn't muddy that water as well with creating a new scandal. Now, the other question is like, or is James Gunn the perfect person to get this in order, because he's been there through this difficulty and has, now turned things around. So who better than that to help get this ship to turn around as well? Now, it could be questionable whether you think that, yes, he has turned things around. We really haven't seen Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and we haven't really seen, anything else besides Suicide come out, which had mixed box office wasn't great, but the critics did give it praise, or I should say audiences as well. So there's one more question that we need to ask, which is what needs to be done going forward? I think that DC needs to continue to develop on investing in their villains. Marvel's villains come and go, but DC definitely has an opportunity over here over Marvel. I mean, look at the Batman. Lots of their villains, such as the Joker, you have Catwoman, and countless others, are very strong, and I think that DC can take advantage of that in developing these villains so they can come back in movies, be shared throughout movies, and maybe eventually even get their own movie. I mean, Suicide Squad, the promise and potential is there, and I think that's one of the problems is hopefully they will know, James Gunn and Peter, what the audience actually wants. Like for Suicide Squad, I think a lot of people wanted Suicide Squad fighting the Justice League, and that's not all at all what we got. So I think if they really give the audience and know what they want, and hopefully, stay true to the comics and don't just go, let me just do what I want, I think that that would help them. And I think the other thing that needs to be done here is tell a story that's worth telling. The Batman movies have been the most successful, with the stories and engaging individuals. And if you tell an interesting story and something that's engaging, I think that the audience will come for that. So when you're exploring Wonder Woman, I think one of the things that made Wonder Woman so successful in the first movie was, the focus on the story. And I think what made Batman also successful was the focus on the story as well. So, Superman had a very large spectacle and all those things and didn't transfer as well. I think also because, in my opinion, they didn't explore the Clark Kent side of Superman and as much, and I really enjoyed that about the original movies. I think that humanistic nature of Superman, along with the superpowers and the villains, is the combo that you need in telling that story. And they need to create a connection to these characters and build better stakes. So they can do that by the humor, but not go too much into the humor where you're kind of like undercuts the story. I think like Marvel's like, oh wow, this is a really great action sequence, I'm getting really into it, and then all of a sudden humor's inserted into there and it kind of interrupts it, which sometimes, yes, can be funny, and I think has worked for them quite well, but other times it's like, oh, I was really excited about this payoff, but now you just kind of took it and kind of tarnished it. So I think using humor in a way to kind of build a connection to the character and exploring the characters' kind of challenges that they face and the love and relationships. Now, I should go back to exploring challenges because in the Superman movie, they kind of faced the consequences and it was very like Debbie Downer kind of thing. But exploring, like the balance between, Superman going back and forth between Clark Kent and Superman, protecting his family, maybe also feeling like a sense of loneliness at times in regards to that. And just a constant state of always being in fear that someone's going to come, who's the next person to come and challenge me and potentially endanger my family. And like I said, with love and relationships, Diana, Wonder Woman has had that. Even some instances, I think like what Batman, like the contrast, you don't get too much of Bruce Wayne's side and the kind of playboy side, and I would like to see that explored. And I also think like the friendships that they kind of develop, like Superman does have other friends that he's had relationships with. There's Lois Lane, of course, but there's other people that work at the paper, and that. And then lastly is loss. It's good for the characters kind of to experience loss, and through these movies, as you become connected and invested with them, it's then when you can build the last part, which I think should change, needs to be done, is building the stakes. And I think the first important thing is don't go into the first movie with just like a huge battle and big baddies. We need to build up and feel the payoff. So you can have the villains that are associated with that character in the movies and still feel like, wow, there's a payoff and there's something I'm getting out of this. And then, you could build back to the Justice League and give the characters the justice that they deserve. When I first saw Wonder Woman in the movies, I was really excited because the kind of history that I've had with the character, watching through the cartoons and just, you know, watching this character finally be on screen, of how excited I was for it. And for the most part, I would say yes, it paid off. But then to see like the second movie kind of just take that all away in DC fashion currently of disappointing, that was really hard to take. Now, I hope that James Gunn realizes how special these characters are and handles them with the way the fandom and audience deserves to see them. Because I think that really would change the narrative between Marvel and DC. if you're only allowed to see the characters of how they truly are. And part of that, like I said, is showcasing the villains that encompass this world along with them. I would use The Flash to do a soft reset because I think Ezra Miller does need to be replaced in regards to the controversy. So there are some things, unfortunately, and I know that's hard for some people to swallow, that do need to change in order to move forward. Now, I consider this like a soft kind of reboot because it'll be phase 1.1 because you're probably going to want Henry Cavill and other people to come back. I think it's important for the movies to have Easter eggs of things, like even if there's not payoff, but just to see some of the characters that we've wanted to see. I also think like bringing back the end credit sequences that Marvel has done and putting it into DC and actually having them be a payoff to something to get excited about would be really a good use of the films and kind of creating this unified vision. And we really do need kind of a unified story for these characters and world for them to play in. Yes, each of the characters can have their own things going on, in their individualized movies and just have like an overall arching kind of effect with the end credit sequence that's building towards the Justice League needing to be built back up. Now, Marvel has used Disney Plus to promote some of the lesser known characters. Now, that has been with mixed success, really. Some would argue they start off really strong and then all of a sudden have gone downhill. Now, I probably would use HBO Max as some of these things, but I would tell small story arcs that build upon the world. So, interesting stories that maybe potentially have a purpose that individuals would want to see. Now, it's fine to do something fun like Marvel has had, but I'm not sure if DC can afford to experiment anymore. It's not working out so much for Marvel. DC is willing to go places that Marvel doesn't. I think they still can bring that Batman edginess to all of their movies to make it like the cool place to be. For those who want a little more kind of edge to the superheroes, but still be able to tell a story that is broad and appeal to their audience. Now, I feel like this announcement of James Gunn and Peter are not going to change everything. We still have the Snyderverse, I think, in some capacity. We still have the controversies and repeated failure of the box office and critiques kind of plaguing DC with their failures. I want James Gunn and Peter to succeed. Someone needs to fix DC, and maybe, just hopefully, they're the individuals to do it. And be able to get DC to show its true potential. Now, I'm not sure if they're up to the task, but I'm going to kind of watch very closely and cross my fingers. So lastly, what are your thoughts in regards to this? What do you want to see out of DC? And if you like what you're seeing, hit the like button, hit subscribe, and until next time, stay safe. Thank you. Bye.